Good morning, December 8th, 2025. Welcome to Collision Coffee Talk. I've got to get to the airport. So I'm going to just jump right in and not have a whole lot of small talk today. All right. What are we gonna talk about? Okay, it's a pretty fun list. We're gonna have some fun times with this one. All right, we're gonna talk about 3M finally admits that they have an Amazon store. It actually is theirs, and the competition that it has. State Farm's making some not so quiet moves with Mitchell. We're gonna connect some dots around the industry and just give you something to think about. State Farm's outside legal counsel in the class action litigation out in North Carolina on total loss, I believe, just made a huge mistake, but it also opens the door of opportunity to lots of people that have been thinking State Farm's so difficult to deal with because they don't have right to appraisal in the policy. Labor rate decreases continue, and we're going to talk about why. A really fun example came in this past week. Boyd Gerber is trying to trick you, and we're going to just let it. I decided since I was going to talk about 3M, I'd talk about Boyd Gerber too, so they just kind of go together. Why you should stop writing estimates as an independent collision repair center who is not part of a direct repair program. The Oklahoma Attorney General is digging into some discovery that's going on in a lawsuit, which is sort of piggybacking off some other litigation where a body shop actually sued the attorney general. So that's kind of fun. And then your EPC, your environmental hazardous waste disposal, is about to take a huge increase in 2027. Why you need to pay attention to that. And I got a new podcast coming out on December 15th. So it should be a really fun. I'm excited about this one. And I'm going to also tell you today what the second series in that podcast is going to be as we talk about that. All right, let's just talk about the 3M thing because I'm not so sure nothing has quite frustrated me as much as this. Um, if you go back 3 or 4, longer, it was pre-SEMA even, we did a show talking about Amazon and 3M because it had come up in a discussion on Facebook where 3M and an industry consultant, Mike Anderson, made a video, put it out, and said, here's how shops should negotiate with insurance companies. And some of that's in this little handy dandy handout here that 3M made around you're turning in your repair stack or your crimp invoices. And State Farm, in particularly, State Farm was called out on multiple occasions, was coming back and saying, we're not paying your list price because we can get it on Amazon for 50 something dollars a tube. And at first, it was no, 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 that's not our store. We don't have anything to do with it. And so I did the show that basically said, that's kind of hogwash. Here's the screenshots. Here's your logo. Here's your imagery, your photographs. Here it's laid out exactly like the 3mcollision.com website is laid out. Like it's your store. I got lots of emails and messages after it from various jobbers across the country and body shops saying that when they had raised the question, they were specifically told, it's not our store. We don't have anything to do with it. And I just kind of went, you got to be crazy if you're believing that. I felt like, remember, like the 90s, the rapper Shaggy, and he had that song, It Wasn't Me, right? Is that all we have to do in this industry is just say, wasn't me? And then everybody goes, oh, okay, well, I guess it's not true. It's sort of like when CCC tells us that they don't report to Carfax, right? We're supposed to believe that one too. So I had lots of people writing out to me, and I said, great, tell them to issue a statement, an official corporate statement that says it's not our store. That would seem simple. And then maybe they'll send a cease and desist letter to Amazon because clearly, if it's not there, somebody is using their logo. Well, guess what never happened? There was never an official statement sent to the industry, and then there was never a cease and desist because it was their store. And so this is an example of a communication that went out to shops. You can tell it's in italics. This is the official, like an official corporate response, because a body shop had wrote in and said, tell me what's going on with you in this Amazon store, right? These prices are way off what my crimp invoices or my repair stack invoices are printing. And so this particular 3M field rep, obviously they're not authorized to speak on behalf of the company. So they texted back or wrote back with some answer that someone in corporate has given. We do not control the Amazon price. It is created using algorithms that crawl the web and then undercut existing pricing so that they can be the lowest price. While we have a 3M store on Amazon, well, at least they finally started admitting that they do have a store. We don't control the products shown there, and it links to a third party. Yep, nope, didn't believe that one either, right? So there's still this, well, okay, well, yeah, we got a store, but it's not really ours, and it links to third party sellers, and we don't control it. Just admit it's your store. Like I'm okay if you want to. It's kind of like I tell DRPs, look, I'm okay if you don't want to fix cars right, if you don't want to follow OE procedures, you don't want to do collision repair safety inspections. That's your business decision, and just be honest with the consumer about it. For 3M to then send out this handout, it's theirs. It's in purple. 3M does love their purple, right? So that here's the common objections and how a shop should negotiate. If we get to the I can buy it cheaper on the internet, you're supposed to say that I purchased through an authorized 3M distributor and I cannot verify the authenticity, and these could be knockoffs, outdated, and not covered by 3M's warranty. It's your store, right? So that's still, and shops were sending me this, and I'm like, I still can't believe that you're believing this, that there's this really fancy, well done store on Amazon with all of the photography that 3M's paid a lot of money to make, all of the products, all of the descriptions, everything's linked very well, drills down. It has the supportive, like if you click on the 8115, it'll tell you you may also be interested in these other products that are common. So this is still the store. So as of yesterday, I went in and did some screenshotting. There's still a 3M page. There's still a 3M store. And oh, look, there's still a 3M automotive collision repair store within Amazon. So now there's another communication that came out. This one. So shops last week got this sent to them. And I'm like, well, at least finally we're starting to get somewhere. Like, I just own up to it. Yes, we have a store on Amazon. Yes, we're selling stuff. All right. I wanted to give you an update on the activities 3M has taken in response to the Amazon situation. We could probably just call it the Collision Hub Coffee Talk situation more than we could call it the Amazon situation. That would be fair considering some of the other emails people have sent me. 64. So you cared enough or you worried enough that you pulled and you looked at everything that was online. Well, if it's not your products, if you're not the one listing them, then how did you know everything that was there? But anyway, 64 of our most commonly invoiced products have been taken off the 3M storefront. Oh, so it is your store. You do control it. You do have the ability to control the products and the pricings and everything that are listed there because you removed 64 products. So if we go back to the other email where you make it go, well, we have this like magical, mysterious closet storefront, but it doesn't really do anything. Now you're going to remove 64 products. So you did have control, right? While the products will still be on Amazon, it won't be linked from the 3M store. Okay. I have checked and verified this change. You might want to check again there on those. Some of the products specifically listed in the messaging was 8115. Obviously, that's a very commonly used and commonly called out by OE procedure adhesives. So I went looking for 8115 too. More actions are in process, and I will pass along once I hear more. Hope this helps with the conversation on invoicing. Why shops got mad at what's on Amazon. There's a little bit more to this now that you have people retiring from different insurance companies. In that, apparently, we'll just say manufacturers, like the 3Ms and the Sims or whatever, have been taking trips to insurance company home offices and giving presentations about products, materials, OEM callouts, pricing, and supply chain type stuff, which is why suddenly one particular insurer started having so much rebuttal to the crimp or the repair stack invoicing. So you have shops that have invested financially. Like I've had some shops tell me that sometimes the cabinet can cost around $10,000 just for the cabinet. And then you have to pay for the products that go in it. And then I've had other shops tell me that if you don't buy, so let's say you have a slow month, you don't have a lot of cars coming in, and you don't buy enough product, then you get charged like a fee for having the cabinet and some services and everything there. And that can be pretty expensive. So that would make me pretty angry too if I had this investment, I was using this product, and then suddenly an insurer started saying, we're gonna throw out every invoice you sent us because we can buy all this stuff for a completely different price on Amazon. So I went and looked yesterday afternoon. I want to be very clear. It was about 1:30 in the afternoon. I went over to Amazon. I clicked 8115 3M and it popped up. It's $53 a tube. And oh, look, I can still visit the 3M store. But now what they wanted to tell you is like, hey, well, we're not distributing it. And I don't think anybody is really dumb enough to think that there's someone sitting in a 3M distribution warehouse that's fulfilling Amazon orders. And that goes for any large major brand, right? So if you look here and you see that this is sold by Marketplace Pros, God, this is really starting to feel like the CCC Carfax debacle in that company in Canada, right? But it says Marketplace Pros. And I want to say that I believe, based on conversations, that that's sort of the way 3M's presented this is, hey, oh, it's, well, sure, there's products that are on 3, but that's not us. We're not selling them because they don't think that you're going to figure out who Marketplace Pros are. So I'll just do it for you. Let's talk about who Marketplace Pros are. Now, I've had some experience with these people. With another company that we worked with that was moving their products to the Amazon store for sale. So if I'm a large brand, I don't have the capability to have people that fulfill individualized orders, right? My distribution is set up to ship 25 cases of PPE or PPE cups or whatever to an NCS or a Zimmerman's or an English Color or whatever, because those are my customers. So I have to go find a company that I can partner with that does that. And that is what Marketplace Pros are. So if you just want to go to marketplacepros.com, you can read all about them. But if you click the About Us, here's what they're going to tell you. We help brands, 3M, succeed on today's leading e-commerce marketplaces like Amazon, Walmart, and eBay. You can buy a lot of 3M on eBay. From product listings and content creation to logistics and inventory management, we take the heavy lifting off your plate so you can focus on growing your business. So this isn't a distributor like let's just compare them to like a Zimmerman's out in Pennsylvania, right? Where they buy lots of products from manufacturers like 3M and Norton and SEM and all these people, and then they store them and then they sell and distribute them to body shops through route service. This is not what Marketplace Pros are. They're a company that helps really big name brands, and you can see that they distribute for over 200 brands. They're the distribution arm of these people. It's not like they're a secondary company that's buying product and just selling it willy-nilly out on Amazon or Walmart or eBay. They have 3M. They have some tool companies that we all know, DeWalt and Makita. They have U-Pole. Oh, look, they've got Sim, right? And Norton. Oh, and Wizard and Evercoat. This company puts products and puts them in the digital market space so that large companies like these brands can sell them online. That's what they do. Now, I guess you could technically and legally say, Shaggy defense, it wasn't me, right? But it is. And I'm okay with it if you just admit it. Why the whole trying to run around and and I guess it's because, and I'll very transparently, when 3M decided to buy from the jobber down in Texas to buy this cabinet-based inventory system. I was like, that's pretty dumb. Why would you want to buy that, right? Um, Everybody wants a point of sale inside the end user to jump over distribution, right? Distribution is expensive. Same reason why State Farm is going to start trying to get rid of agents. And Allstate and other insurance companies are going to try to get rid of agents, right? If you go back to the progressive model, turns out you can sell insurance and you don't need an agent, right? That middle is a very expensive line on your budget, right? So you think if I can just get past that, but there's a lot in there. I personally like jobbers. I think body shops are dependent on jobbers. They're really your source of information. When they come by and they drop stuff off that they're delivering, you have conversations, you ask them questions about new products, you may ask them what's going on in your market. I still remember my jobber growing up. His name was Al. We called him Big Al. Gold chains, pinky rings. He was awesome. But it's how we found out what all was going on around in the industry with other shops, and sort of like whatever. So I believe the jobbers are important. Um, I understand the benefits of online shopping. I have an Amazon truck at my house probably 3 or 4 times a week, right? Like I don't want to drive to Little Rock, Arkansas to do shopping. I'll just sit in my couch and in my office and just have stuff brought to me so I get it. But there's this bigger picture there that I really think all of you need to start seeing. And I've mentioned it a couple of times. Everything in our industry has gone to AWS. The insurance companies, State Farm is with AWS, Amazon. Um, from there, you had Mitchell, and the estimating companies are also AWS, Amazon. And then this Partstrader thing that has happened. So if you weren't watching this past week, because it didn't come out on, I guess, our industry trade pubs, Mitchell had acquired Partstrader. There was some previous things on that. And then Partstrader announced is their new product called Orderly. Now you need to understand State Farm, not necessarily, they're not an owner of Partstrader, but they were heavily invested in the Partstrader infrastructure and trying to recreate in the United States what had happened in Australia, New Zealand, etc. Um, Consolidation in the market, meaning body shops selling to large groups, the Gerbers, the Boyds, the Calibers, the Crashes, the whatever, um, made some things that insurers always wanted to do suddenly sort of possible. The more fragmented we were as an industry, meaning the more individualized we were, the more protected we were. The more consolidated we became, the more vulnerable we became. And so some things that were there, and that's consolidation across the board. If you look at our jobber distribution channels, our body shops, we've just had all this consolidation, and that makes us vulnerable. So it is not coincidental that State Farm has announced that everybody can start using Mitchell. It's not coincidental that Mitchell has Partstrader, and then it's not coincidental that all of these segments of our industries are all somewhat collecting themselves under the AWS umbrella with Amazon and Amazon stores. So Partstrader's Orderly is really the the end game, so to speak, of where an insurer wants to take. When they say straight through processing, it means more to them than just the report of the claim and the settlement check of the claim. They're looking at connecting all of this into an ecosystem that does straight through processing. And so if you look at the way that Orderly works, basically shops, you run your estimate through it, they order your parts, they order everything. So if you have line itemization of products, or we have a way of integrating repair procedures that will call out and tell us what products go with them, as you've seen, like Repair Logic feed itself into the estimating systems as well. Like imagine it produces a sheet and suddenly I know everything you need. And then through AWS and the way that it works, you're going to upload an estimate, and the next day a truck's going to show up at your shop and it's going to unload your parts, your materials, your paint. It's going to unload everything. Sort of the control of it's really out of control, and at that point you only become end labor, and that's it. So as you if you ask them what would your dream be, every insurer would go, man, I'd love to be able to just take an estimate and automatically source everything to our financial benefit. So when you think about how many claims a large insurer has, and they can go and get a really nice discount on parts. You think about the discounts that even like a Caliber negotiated themselves with like a General Motors or whatever. Um, think about how much better that would be when an OE can cut a deal with an insurance company. And that insurance company could say, you're going to get everything that's in our network. You're not just going to get the one. When I watch different firms begin to offload their aftermarket parts companies, then you start to see where if I'm an insurer and I can buy OE parts at a significant discount and have a financial benefit to that, then I don't necessarily need to have those aftermarket parts anymore. If aftermarket parts were still profitable, but you're not going to see people necessarily offload that. So watching this sort of happen from, I think, we're talking, I don't even want to do the math, 1995 till now, sitting in those offices and listening to people talk about this is what we want to do different beta tests with different markets, come back and go, here are some of the barriers, the fragmentation. I remember early 2000s to some of the market testing, the fragmentation was our problem. There's too many hands in this. I can't really cut the deals I need to cut because there's too many people at play. And we just don't have that right now. We've got very much streamlined. Even if we look at the preferred, I mean, we're going to go one step more than a DRP. We're going to choose a singular provider that we're going to try to push things through. But you need to pay attention to everything that's sort of rolling up under that AWS umbrella. And that's everything from material to paint to parts to software to everything. And it's going to get very interesting. I think for all of us in this industry as we go forward. Let's talk about another thing in the industry that if we're going to talk about, I feel like I should have worn my tinfoil hat because it's like the conspiracy theory episode. But if the shoe fits and that tinfoil hat fits, then maybe there's some truth to it. Okay, this one's starting to anger me just because they're on a PR march. And then I get really mad at people in this industry that want to tell us that they're all about shops, but then they allow themselves to be a mouthpiece of public relations. And I'm like, ugh. Okay, let's talk about this Plasnomic. Let's just call it what it is. Boyd Gerber made a company called Plasnomic, and they're supposed to be about plastic repair. And then if you want to legitimize it, well, then you just make up a council. So then they made their own Global Plastic Repair Alliance Council. Like it makes it feel very official, but it's just a company that got together and said, "Hey, we're going to start this thing, and we're going to decide who gets invited in it." They've added PPG people, so Tom Wolf over there was from PPG. PPG is SEM. If you look at Gerber, Boyd Gerber, their paint company is PPG, and they use SEM products, right? Like it all starts to fit together. It's not even hard to make those connections. However, you do now have some people in the industry that are trying. There's been lots of coverage in the trade magazines, and now this Mario here is out doing interviews on podcast, trying to push this whole plastics repair agenda. If you want to know the background, dude, the CEO or the person that's listed the head of Plasnomics comes from Headlights, the headlight repair people that we were always having to order from these remanufactured headlights, and just that's who this is. So as you watch these articles pop up, if it's trade magazines, if you happen to be an unfortunate one of the 76 people that watched the podcast he was on, you can't be an industry influencer and only get 76 people to watch your stuff. Just know there's always a deeper story. Like it's not like there's some plastic repair innovative experts that suddenly have come into our industry to teach us. This has a method. I don't know if any of you remember. You probably go back and Google it. Go to Repair Driven News or whatever. When Service King was going to start printing bumper parts and bumper tab repairs, and all of them were going to get 3D printers. There's been this. This is a business. So this whole Plasnomic, this Plastic Repair Alliance, all of this is a business, and it ties back to Boyd Gerber. It just is what it is. Like I don't. I don't mind. Like, you want to take a play at something, you want to make a run, you want to have a business, that's cool. I just think the industry should know who's behind what and what the intentions of all of that are. Speaking of intentions, I get asked this all the time. I do this stop share because I noticed last week when I was replaying the show, I had a lot of sharing issues. I always people there's a friend that wrote me back and wrote me and said, I counted the show and you said 75 times and you should clean it up. And I'm like, yeah, I should if I had an editor. But it's 4 o'clock in the morning on a Monday and I'm on one cup of coffee. I'm going to say a lot. So I don't have the time to pre-record this and have it edited like the New Heights podcast with the Kelsey brothers. Okay, labor rates. Um, we've been talking about it for a long time now. It got covered at SEMA in Vegas about insurance companies dropping rates. So it's like if Kristen was lying about it, then I guess, when they covered it at SEMA, then I'm not lying. But still, recently people are still posting that labor rates are dropping. I love this one. It's starting to make more of the middle of the country, and it's in Illinois. That you're getting the call that labor rates dropping from 66 to 61. Why is that? Well, at the bottom of this page, you'll see an email that came back to a body shop. So we've been very intentional. I think probably I should have been intentional a few years earlier. I was very vocal about why I didn't like the labor rate hero and body shop hero and whatever the hell that crap was. Um, and how bad it was for the industry, right? But I probably should have been a little bit more intentional about the hows and the whys. I've talked often about the labor rate surveys that insurance companies do are not real. So you sending in your labor rates or having a posted labor rate on your wall is pointless. It's kind of like going to a hotel, right? And you look on the back of the hotel and it'll tell you that $56 a night, motor inn that you're staying in on the back, it says that the room's $700 a night. So there's just some things you need to know. And one of those that we've been talking about is labor rate and market, what is set, what you'll go to court, what an insurer will try to defend itself on, is based on what you upload. So what's on your estimating system, whether it's CCC or Mitchell or maybe you're on WebEst or whatever, they're going to go to an estimating company and they're going to go for this zip code or whatever. What's the average of the uploaded labor rate? So that's what you've said you're willing to do the work for. It's better than what you've got posted on your wall. So we told shops, we're like, look, if you want to change the market, don't ever monkey with that labor rate. So that very last page of the estimate where you're putting in your labor rates, that needs to be what you want on your posted wall. So that thing that you used to have behind you at the shop that said our labor rates are $975, but you're doing it for $56 now, right? Whatever's on that estimate and those labor rates, that needs to be what you want. That's your survey. And every time you lock an estimate or you print an estimate or whatever, that's you continually being surveyed and you telling the market what your rate is. Don't don't change it. So shops were adjusting their labor rate to what they wanted it to be. And then I was like, look, if you want to offer a discount, you can. Like if I want to give you $2,000 off this repair, go and make it a labor line addition. So when an insurance company wants to make a concession, right, in your market, they don't change anything that is discoverable, so to speak. Mm. They go and make a single line. Adjustment, concession for settlement, $2,000, $1,500, whatever it is, because they know it's very, very critical. So this shop did it, and this insurance adjuster wrote them back. So if you didn't read that before, or if you're listening on the audio version, I'll read it. I'm just getting caught up on claims. As you know, I cannot accept your labor rates. How it is subtracted on the estimate still makes it look like we are paying those rates. And from a legal standpoint, they will not let me accept an estimate that is written like this. I understand that I cannot tell you what to charge, but we do have limitations on how we can pay. Okay, folks, there you are. if you didn't want to listen to me, here is an adjuster who's obviously spoken with their manager, and their manager is like, the most important thing is that the last page of that estimate have the rates that we want to make the shops in this area accept. That's how important it is. Now, my rebuttal for this is you ain't paying my rates. We ain't in business together. And this is an estimate for Miss Smith. How you indemnify Miss Smith, I don't give a crap how you do it. You can pay her in quarters. You can pay her in chocolate bars. You can buy her a new car, or you can send her a check. But we're not in business together. We ain't got anything. I wrote an estimate for Miss Smith. I'm not changing nothing, and I'm not submitting it to you, and I'm not asking you to pay my labor rates. You can talk to your customer about it. Insurers have made intentional how they interact and the way that they ask shops to do things because it manipulates the market to their benefit, not yours. And for the last 30 years, you guys have just went, okay, well, I got to get along. I got to do whatever it is that helps Miss Smith get paid. That's Miss Smith's problem, not yours. And here is where we at today. You have adjusters that are very aware of what's going on with the labor rate. They're very aware of why they are trying to do that so they can come back and lower labor rate $5, $15, $20 in a lot of markets. And then it's not them saying it. It's not me having to have a discovery because you've noticed State Farm's never turned over the survey and discovery. They've always settled lawsuits. As soon as the judge compels, boom, they settle because there isn't a survey. But we never talk about it because this is what they want. They don't want to go in and go, well, Your Honor, we surveyed and this is what shops charge. They want to go, well, Your Honor, we asked this independent third-party estimating company what the average of the labor rates within this particular surface zone, zip code, et cetera, are. And this is what they gave us based on what shops are charging in the market. That's where you set your rate. You want to affect change, stop monkeying with your rates. Stop doing anything on the last page where you enter rates, whatever you want those rates to be, whatever your dream for your market is. So in this example, if Sergio here wants $66 again, Sergio has to start making sure every estimate is at $66, not 61. Because as soon as he changes it, then now that's the market. You're going to have to get very intentional to what you do. And I got a little something else that I kind of want to talk about on that later before I turn everybody loose and I head to the airport. Okay, State Farm, I believe you just made a huge mistake. I think your outside counsel thought they were being cute, but you really gave a lot of us the open door we were looking for. So sometimes when you're dealing in negotiations, why it's so important to listen is that you're trying to figure out a way to shove everything you want through a little bitty teeny tiny open window, and they just go over and roll up the whole garage door for you. And you're like, whoa, we're gonna redo. All right. I've talked about this, I think, the last couple of weeks. And there was a gentleman that's from Florida, who's an IA in Florida that had made a post in one of the groups, and he was sort of right and sort of wrong. And so I left it and have mentioned it. All right. Most every insurance company, and State Farm is one of them, on the very end of their policy, like at the beginning of the policy, you'll have insured duties, you'll have definitions, you'll have something, and then a lot of times at the end of the policy, you'll have more like duties, expectations, policy limitations. That may be where you find, hey, it's only good 50 miles into Canada, but nowhere into Mexico, or or whatever there's there. There is generally a paragraph about how you can't sue them. That if there's a discrepancy or a difference, you have to go to arbitration first. I always tell people right to appraisal clauses in policies aren't really there because they're trying to avoid the oh shit verdicts. That's what that last thing at the end of the policy is that says, hey, because it covers uninsured, underinsured motorists, liability, like if you're going to do a bad faith or whatever. That's what that's supposed to be. For years, though, you could have asked for it. So this was what this guy was saying on the Florida when he made his post. Hey, State Farm doesn't have right to appraisal in the policy, but I think I found this language that sort of says they have to do it where it's appraisal or mediation, arbitration, so to speak. a little bit different than a right to appraisal. A lot of times they'll tell you that this has to go to an arbitration board, and those are people that are typically like coverage questions, bodily injury type stuff. They don't do physical damage, disputes. They're not trained collision repair people. So it's never really something we've done back there. Now, in my career, I've been involved in a lot of lawsuits, right? State Farm got sued a lot. I had a short stint at Nationwide. Nationwide got sued a lot. Like insurance companies get sued a lot. Um, I have never, doesn't mean it's never been done before, but I have never seen outside counsel try to get a suit, individual or class action, dismissed because they said the policyholder didn't follow the policy. And that's what in this North Carolina class action, that's what State Farm's outside counsel came back and said is, hey, the person, so to certify a class, you have to find somebody that has been wronged. I remember very early in my career working on the Avery versus State Farm case. It took forever to find somebody that had actually had an aftermarket part put on their car, right? Like typically the cars didn't get repaired, the customers didn't take them to the shop substituted OE, like so it took a while before they finally found a plaintiff. So in this case, they're basically saying that without participating in the appraisal, Brewer, who's the plaintiff, so Brewer didn't, the policy says that you can't sue us, you have to do appraisal first. So they're saying that by the plaintiff Brewer lacks standing to assert any of his claims against State Farm because ACV is determined by appraisal. Now that just doesn't mean that it's only total loss ACVs. Appraisal, if you're before you're going to sue your insurer for whatever, that's what that paragraph at the very end of the policy says. Um, Interesting. Under the policy, appraisal and not a claim for breach of contract or any other cause of action necessarily determines the ACV's plaintiff's vehicle. Other federal courts have held in similar cases that without participating in appraisal, the plaintiff lacks standing. So basically, this attorney said, specific to Brewer's policy, State Farm says its liability is limited to the lesser of the other and the amount necessary to repair or replace the property of like, kind, and quality. You can't go forward with your class because we didn't go to appraisal first, so we don't even know if this is even true, whether your loss wasn't repaired properly. Okay, State Farm just opened the garage door. So one of the biggest what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say or Roger's gonna get on me again. Okay, sorry, Roger. One of the biggest complaints against State Farm is that they don't have right to appraisal in the policy. Now, in Virginia, the DOI basically said, because there's a language about total loss, they said, hey, you have to honor it for everything, not just total loss. And so that's very unique to Virginia. But for the most part, it's not in there, except there's that paragraph at the end that's intentionally there to try to avoid class actions like this. That's what it's there for. But they've never, I always tell when people read it or call me about it, I go, sure, you can assert it. They're going to say, no, it doesn't apply. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have to hire an attorney anyway, because the attorney then is going to have to file a motion to try to compel to make State Farm honor the appraisal process. And it's going to be arbitration. So it's not you hire an IA, they hire an IA. It means it goes straight to an arbitration panel, whether they're going to say that you have to use a specific certified arbitration. Like, I mean, there's a lot of things there. But by using this as a defense and a class action, I think if you're in North Carolina specifically right now, which North Carolina has some RTA benefits, which makes it unique. But this would be nice to be able, I think a lot of us in states could possibly take this and say, okay, State Farm, your attorneys in the defense of a suit have said that the customer can't sue you. Now that might be small claims court. Like we have a lot of customers that go to small claims court against State Farm. Or if when State Farm tries to move it from small claims court to civil circuit court, and that's an attempt to really just try to screw the customer over and make them have to hire an attorney. This may be a great response. You probably, if you go to Repair Driven News, they do a great job. All the blue stuff is links, and you can click through and you can read State Farm's attorney's motion, and you can do all that. So you would have copies of that, and you could go, this is what you believe corporately. You believe that that means the customer should go to arbitration. Now, arbitration is not as cheap as RTA, and it's different. The whole process, I was talking through with an arbitration. It's not on it's not on physical damage, but one that's going to an arbitration board now. And the way you write those is way more involved. When I was very lucky, one of my fill-in assignments one time was in a subrogation unit. And the subrogation unit, God love them, I thought all they did was sit around and try to collect checks. Those people work. Like they're preparing and presenting to these arbitration panels sort of like attorneys. And I was like, I will never make fun of you people ever again as long as I live. So I think this is very interesting. If you're an IA, or if you're working with an attorney, or you're a body shop that's doing some RTAs, definitely send this to the people you're working with and have a conversation with them and go, hey, can we use this as a way to compel State Farm to really um, maybe use arbitration when there's not RTA? If it's a significant claim, let's say you're drastically different, 15, $20,000 different on the appraisal, which isn't uncommon these days. It may be something to look into, but I think they're going to regret trying this strategy because they really have just given all of us permission to go, well, you're right. Yep. Can't go to small claims court and sue you. I got to use arbitration first. Which is, like I said, we spend so much time trying to negotiate ourselves through a window, and sometimes they just roll up the whole 14-foot garage door and let us all drive in. Speaking of more State Farm problems, so this letter keeps coming up and up and up. And I know last week we focused on the 96 hours. I just want to remind all of you, stop friggin' writing estimates. Like I've told you over the last year or 2 years, I'm not a fan of Blueprint anymore just because the conditions have changed, the industry has changed, right? Stop doing things that don't bring value, or to me, value means bring money. Stop doing things that don't bring you money, and creating extra work and hassles or whatever. So if you read this letter, State Farm tells everybody it is your the customer responsibility to discuss the State Farm estimate with your chosen shop. Great, I'm just going to sit right here and wait on the State Farm estimate. And when they call you and go, are you going to write an estimate? Nope, got your letter. It says that it's the customer's responsibility to discuss the State Farm estimate with me. I'm just waiting on your estimate, State Farm. It comes down later and it says that that you need to choose a shop that's willing to do the repairs that are consistent with our estimate. Well, that's twice now you've told me you're going to write an estimate. And then the third thing, the most we will pay for it are the repairs is the amount of our estimate and any supplement agreed to by us. Okay. There are very few people still left at State Farm that actually, one, have an estimating license and can write an estimate, and then two, know what the hell they're doing. You allow them to get away with a lot because of you supplement and then they send you change requests and you supplement and they go, oh, well, this would go faster if you would just like send in a supplement. And we all do the whole rekey and swipe everything off and redo it. If they're going to go start sending these letters on the day that claims get reported, then you should probably just stop writing estimates. Just make the insurer write them. I mean, that's all I want to do. God, this artificial intelligence camera is not that bright, right? I keep turning it off and it keeps turning itself back on and zooming in. It's kind of awesome. See, look. Okay. Force the insurer to write the estimate. If they're going to send out this stuff and say the most they're going to pay is their estimate, that the customer has to explain their estimate to the shop, then make them do it. It's in their words. When they go, well, we need you to upload an estimate. Nope. Your letter says you're going to write an estimate. I'm just going to sit here and wait on it, right? Sometimes they don't have a claim. So there's a recording, Peyton Bell, body shop out of Oklahoma, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, has a recorded conversation between him and a State Farm adjuster. We'll put that, and we'll use that term loosely. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on this week too. And it's very clear they have no idea what they're doing. They just have this like flow chart in front of them and they're just supposed to follow it. And then we're over here doing all the heavy lifting for no reason because you're Peyton's completely right in what he needs and they're still saying no. So just be water. Stop pushing and punching and trying to get your way through with them. Just start making them do their job. They're supposed to, if they're only going to pay or indemnify the loss to their customer or claimant based on their appraisal, make them write an appraisal. Like just, force that hand a little bit, and make them do what they're saying in these letters they're going to do, which is, somebody probably should not have sent that out. Okay, let's talk a little bit more. I talked about Peyton. So several weeks ago, a bunch of body shops in Oklahoma got together and they filed a lawsuit against the Attorney General, and basically asked for relief from a law, a storage and towing law that had passed. Um, and Peyton was sort of the lead on that. And then Amanda Allen, Allen's Body Shop in Oklahoma. There's some great shops there. Gary Wano, GW and Sons, that are a part of that and doing that. And so I found it interesting then that this popped up because uh, you can go on LinkedIn and you can find Chip Merlin there, as you can see with that little globe next to his post there. It is public. You can find it. Um, a bunch of people got together in Oklahoma and filed lawsuits against State Farm as well as State Farm agents for the way hail claims on roofs were being handled. As a result of that, the Attorney General then went in and filed that they want access to all of the discovery that's part of this, and it says protected discovery. And here's what's important. Okay, so remember when we talked about what was going on in Illinois, and the Department of Insurance wanted to investigate State Farm on some pricing and premiums. State Farm said no. The Attorney General of Illinois issued financial warrants, and State Farm still said no. And State Farm's main reason of saying no was they wanted to know, well, what's going to happen? Like, what kind of protections or assurance do we have that if we provided you this financial information, that you weren't going to share it with the National Association of Insurance Commissioners? That's such an odd thing that I'm not that you're going to share it. Why? Because you don't want other states to open their own investigations like Illinois is doing. So you're trying to make sure that no other insurance commissioner is going to find out. Um, State Farm does not want discovery out, and they never have. That's why when some things start to get moved, and that's every insurance company, so it's not just them really, but when they can't fight discovery, I had a shop last week send me a thing that said they're in the middle of a suit. Their attorney filed for discovery, and the insurance company's attorney wrote back and tried to deny it all and say it was all proprietary and we can't release it. And it's like it's the claim notes on that claim. That's not proprietary. That's your work product, which you did wrong, which is why we're in court in the first place. Um, but it's what's really interesting is that you have an attorney general stepping in, and I agree with Chip here in that we're going to get more of this. The pricing, insurance companies having to return billions, and it's not just Progressive in Florida, but lots of insurance companies are returning billions of dollars in premium. They sort of created this lie about a lot of things to raise premium, and then these huge profits, it's now starting to come out. Um, I'm going to go in. This is a 30-page motion filed by the Attorney General in Oklahoma. We're gonna dive a little deeper in it. You can go when this YouTube video launches on this one, sort of like we did with the Chadwick case. You can go watch that, or you can go. Chip's got it linked on his LinkedIn account. You can go and download all 30 pages of this. But I'll spend some more time on it. But it's very interesting now that we have, because insurance is very it's economy essential. So a capitalist driven US based economy, which we love, right? Where people can achieve greatness and have homes. And you look at other countries, we have better homes and we have better car. We have so much more great stuff. It needs insurance, right? When you buy that $500,000 home and you put it on a mortgage, if it burned down, you couldn't replace it. So we all need insurance. We need insurance for our car. So insurance is a critical part of our economy. Um, but it's finally possibly getting some different eyes on it because of just some frustrations. When you read what he says in this filing about, um, Oklahomans have paid and paid and paid, and they're just not getting the service back. Is a really interesting statement that he kind of starts off on his motion here. So I'll be interested to see what changes now on this case in Oklahoma, now that it's not necessarily going to be private protected discovery for this one case. You have an attorney general that wants to get in the middle of it and sort of see more about what's going on. Okay, all right, January is going to happen and everything's going to go up. Between January and February, that first quarter of 2026, your paint lines, your consumables, everything's going to take a price increase. And then guess what? Your hazardous waste disposal is about to take one as well. So recently, we looked across the country. Yanni did this for Eagle MMS. And on average across the country, you're going to see a 12 to 20% increase in your environmental protection disposal expenses. And there's a variety of things, right? There's cleaning out your drains in your shop and whether, that stuff's hazardous. There's your drums that need to be disposed of. And I've posted it before from a 1997 estimating class, 96 or 97 estimating class, where hazardous waste was $3 an estimate. And I still to this day, when I do estimate reviews, see you people writing hazardous waste $3 to $5 an estimate. And it's running you anywhere from $15 to $20 based on what that car is going to produce. And that's just in the liquids, like just what we're doing with that. Yanni has a hazardous waste disposal calculator. It's based on the EPA formulas and codes, and you can see it right there. So if you're currently an Eagle MMS customer, this is a secondary report that automatically runs when you do your invoice. It automatically runs you the EPC, but you do need to go get it and print it and make it part of your file. I have shops that are like, look, Kristen, when I invoice my materials, on average, I get paid about 20-30% of the time. But I 100% of the time get paid for these EPA and hazardous waste disposal fees. Because if we go back to the insurance company earlier, knowing that they don't want to accept that estimate, right? Because it's gonna mess up their math calculations. They damn sure don't want to end up having to increase hazard. You guys have been blindly and sheepishly accepting or writing the $3 to $5 for 30 something years now. They don't want to kick over that apple cart either. So the shops that are using the EPC calculator from Eagle MMS are reporting 100% of the time they're getting paid. If you're not, guys, you can't keep paying thousands of dollars for hazardous waste disposal and getting $3 on an estimate. Look up the EPA formulas and calculations and codes. If you don't want to have something like an Eagle that prints out a really, really well explained VOC calculation report for why you're charging, then at least do something and charge more, because you can't keep taking it in the shorts and then not passing that cost along somewhere. That just basic math, right? The math ain't mathin'. Okay, very excited. If you watched last week on Collision's Facebook and across the social channels, we released the teaser for our new podcast called The Zip Tied Tesla. I got really tired, sort of like I kind of got a little tired about all this 3M Amazon stuff and whatever. I got a little tired of a lot of people taking victory laps around this industry when they've royally messed over consumers. And so we've gone back and we've looked at all of the files that we have, Larry and I, that are not protected in court orders or non-disclosure agreements. And we're just going to tell the story. So we're going to start December 15th is going to be the first episode of the Zip Tied Tesla. You can see the actual one there. And we're going to talk about how the Tesla Certified Collision Program and the employees of Tesla treated this customer. We're going to talk about this Tesla certified repair shop, the lack of quality repairs that they did, the lack of consideration and care for this customer. We're going to tell his whole story. And that's the crazy thing is we're a couple of years into this and his story's still not over. But that shop still is on the Tesla Certified Collision Repair Program. And that, quite frankly, makes me extremely angry. So I hired an investigative journalist because I thought, well, if I just tell the story, then in these closed door, old gray hair sports coat mafia meetings with all the old guys, they're just going to say that, well, Kristen, she's so biased and it's clickbait journalism and she's just telling the story in a way that's supposed to be very inflammatory so that it gets her more views. So I just hired a journalist and told the journalist to go do the research and come back to me and tell me what she found. She came back madder than I was. And I'm like, this is awesome. So December 15th, we will drop the first episode of the new podcast, The Zip Tied Tesla. You can go to YouTube right now and watch the preview. I wanted to do a murder mystery, and Avery, who's our video editor, did an incredible job. Very a noir style comic book for the 2-minute teaser for this show that's coming up. And then I will go ahead and tell you episode 2 that is coming out after the Zip Tied Tesla. is a post repair inspection and a case, a lawsuit that was filed. And we're going to talk about Gerber. So it was a Gerber car, and how that got handled. We're going to read the depositions out loud and we're just going to go through the whole thing. So that would be the next episode in this podcast. But there's going to be 5 episodes. First episode is going to release December 15th. So make sure that you pay attention and look for that special edition podcast, the Zip Tied Tesla. All right. Last but not least, if you will go to the YouTube channel, so wherever you're listening, you may be listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcast, but wherever. If you'll go to the Amazon, the Collision Hub, Amazon. If you go to the Collision Hub YouTube channel, there is a place for membership. So there will be some drops this week. There are 3 new drops. We're going to go in detail on the 30 pages of the State Farm Oklahoma and Attorney General issue. I'm going to talk in detail about estimate line entries and why insurance companies don't want you to make line entries, and how estimating systems were never designed for collision repair. We're going to go tell that story. I think you're going to start seeing that come out in a couple of court cases pretty soon. And then I'm going to go in detail over the recorded call between Peyton and State Farm as it relates to the Opus map. There's nothing necessarily wrong with the Opus map. There's nothing necessarily wrong. The adjuster is not trained, and we're going to just talk about that and the position it puts the adjuster in, but then what the consequences are for that for the consumer. I think you need to hear this and sort of I need to explain the other side. Like as a shop, we hear this call and we go, "This is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life," right? But I want to talk about what's going on the insurer side, because this is going to be your life, right? You're going to be on the phone. You have a very detailed repair plan. You have procedures and explanations for why everything's needed. And the other person is just going to be like, "Sorry, I can't pay for that." No, I mean, I think I understand what you're saying, but State Farm says I can't pay for that. And I want you to sort of hear that and talk through it. Lots of special members only videos and training, and I'm going to put them here. So there's sometimes I put things on the website and it's like a $20 class or whatever. I think that's kind of hard for everybody to go in and run your credit card and buy a class. So if you're just a member of our YouTube channel, lots of things are going to drop. There's 2 classes in there right now. You can watch the Chadwick versus State Farm. We break down that lawsuit and verdict. And then I've got a thing on there on right to appraisal and how some umpire decisions and some things that are going on could create some bad faith. So go in there and click it. I'm sort of getting caught up. I am finishing a very detailed refinishing class right now on how refinishing and calculations and negotiations and sort of how that affects invoicing. So that was it was one of those things where I was like, yeah, that'll be an easy class. I'll bang it out. And then I just really went down the rabbit hole. And Daniel and Larry were like, "Hey, you got to reel that back a little bit. Like nobody wants to do a 4-day class on refinishing." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that sounds good." So I'm just about starting to get caught up on some of that. And then I'm going to be able to drop some more stuff into that membership only. I want to say it's like $5, or I mean, it's something just silly cheap. We we have a lot of classes for sale. And I know there's I watched this week, a lot of people sort of everybody's always mean to Larry online about he doesn't do anything for free. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of why he's in business. You should not do anything for free either. But what we do is like cheap. If you want to be a VIP, a Collision Hub VIP, it's $300 a month. And then that gives you consulting with us and counseling and coaching and training and legal and all kinds of things. Some people are paying for 20 groups that are running them, over $1,000 a month, right? So we try to make things. Our goal was to be in a price range. When I worked in claims, there was so many things I wanted to do, and the insurer always said, "No, you either can't, or no, we're not paying for that." And so I would go to ICAR conferences and a lot of things on my own dime, using my vacation time because it wasn't, an approved thing. And I know there's a lot of you out there, whether you're an estimator, you're an adjuster, you're a technician, whatever, and you're trying to grow your own career and there's nobody paying the bill for you. So I have to try to make things $50 and $10 and $20 and try to put them in a price range that I think, everybody can afford. I can't do it all for free, right? Collision Hub Coffee Talks for free. But I got some bills to pay too, right? So we try to make it affordable so that it doesn't always have to be a company or a boss or somebody that pays it for you. That I always say, for the cost of what my sushi bill used to be in a week, because I love sushi a lot. So for the cost of what my sushi bill of a week was, then if I just didn't go out to eat, what could I get that could better my career? All right. I hope you have a fantastic week. I'm running to the airport. Melanie is in this week. Holly is out this week. But if you need anything, those two are the smartest people in the entire company. I just work here. And they would be happy to help you. So I will see you all hopefully later. You're going to see me this week inside the private membership group on YouTube. But if not, then I'll see all the rest of you on the next Monday for the next edition of Closing Coffee Talk. Have a great week, everybody.